and so the county has sent out information regarding your abatement ordinances, and that they must be received in their hands by April 2nd. So we worked with special counsel Delgado Group to crunch the numbers with respect to your bond ordinances and prepare your abatement ordinances for the bonds. So essentially, we're going to abate everything in total with the exception of the 2007 A, B, and C bonds. So your TIF bonds have produced extremely well. TIF 2 and 3 bonds. So the 2070A is the building, 2007B is the 911 call center, and 2007C is the fire truck, which we will have to do a partial abatement on those three. We did not collect enough to abate in full.
So I have a question, Ms. Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about well, let me put it this way. Last year, we were submitted abating ordinances for the exact same thing. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
We voted.
Correct.
We voted yes. The board voted yes to abate same bond, 2707.
Correct.
A, B, and C.
Correct.
More.
Actually, trustee, just to interrupt you for a moment. Last year we had, we were going to be doing a partial abatement on the 2007 A, B, and C bonds also. What happened was that we contacted the county because we knew that impact was coming in, and asked them how long we could go to notify them that we had collected enough revenues to abate. So we did in fact abate all of the 2007 A bonds last year because we did receive monies, impact fee monies from the impact project in time to fully abate.
So you did receive impact fees, and you utilized the impact fees to pay off the bonds, correct?
For that year.
For that year.
That is the pledge of revenues that the ordinance prescribes for those bonds.
So the abated taxes, what was done with the taxes that was abated?
They paid the bonds. The money is collected. When you have enough money to abate, that means you're not going to levy. If you don't have enough money to abate, you have to levy.
Right, but we didn't have to levy because the TIF came in.
Because the monies came in for all of the bonds, so that we were in a position to abate.
You left from the TIF funds, correct?
On the parity bonds, on all bonds other than the 2007 A, B, and C, those are TIF bonds.
Right.
So your Series 2000, which had matured, your Series 2002 A and B, your Series 2003, which has also matured, your Series 2008 and 2009 are TIF bonds. Okay. So the alternate revenue source for those bonds is TIF increment.
I'm discussing 2007 A, B, and C.
Okay, those are not TIF bonds.
Those are not TIF bonds.
That is correct.
Okay, but they were submitted last year in ordinance for abatement, correct? They were 207.
Yes, they were.
They were.
Yeah.
But they're not TIF bonds. They weren't TIF bonds last year, right? Correct?
Correct.
Okay. And they're not TIF bonds now.
They are not.
Okay. Now, my question is, once again, let's talk about the 207A bonds for the building.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bond that the village had to take out, correct me if I'm wrong, because there were no TIF money created to pay the village, to pay this building off, correct?
The building is not in a TIF district, so it cannot utilize TIF funds.
Okay, but it was said that the building would be paid by TIF money.
No, sir.
I'm sorry, impact fees.
It's a combination.
From the TIF.
No, from the sale of land. The village has an ordinance on file, an impact fee ordinance, that any property, any commercial industrial property within the village of Sauk Village, and you do need to forgive me because there is a parameter of square feet, but I can't remember what it is. 25,000 square feet, I believe is what it is, must pay an impact fee to purchase the property. And that those impact fee monies, are to be placed in a special impact fee account. The other source of debt service for the 2007A bonds is something called Promote, which is an arrangement within the redevelopment agreement that the village has with the developers. That is correct.
Okay, now, you as the consultant stated that those impact fees we will be receiving from those developers, correct? Did you give us consulting concerning impact fees for this village hall?
We were given information with respect to the development of certain projects. What happened here is what, for lack of better terminology, you almost want to call a perfect storm. Mm-hmm. If you look through the redevelopment agreement for just the DP properties, for instance, you will see that they have a four or a 5-phase takedown of property. They have not taken down all of that property. Well, why haven't they taken down all of the property? Because a couple of years ago, the economy fell out, the bottom fell out of the economy. There are certain things that you can control, and there are certain things that you can't control. They had no reason to take down the land because they had no projects. WindPath came through last year because they really worked it, and we're lucky enough to get a project. I mean, look around. You're not seeing a lot of development. So you have the economy as an issue. You have the Cook County assessor change the ordinance and the level of assessment. You have values declining. That comes together to make a perfect storm. We said, as a consultant, that if everything you're telling us comes to be, that there will be monies to pay the bonds.
And there was not, because there was no development, or there was no improvements, or there was no reconstruction nowhere in the village. So therefore, the village did not receive any of the impact fees that the consultants yourself said that we might incur, correct?
That you would incur if A, B, C, D, and E happened.
But did you consult to say to the village that if we did not receive impact fees, then the public is going to have to bear?
We absolutely did. We do on every single issue that we give you. What your bonds are, alternate revenue, general obligation bonds. What that means is, if the alternate revenue is not there, that the general obligation has to go into effect. Always. There is always that statement. It's on the cover of the official statements. It's on the cover of every ordinance that we have passed in this village.
I must have a different set of papers. Can you give me what you have so I can research it? Because from what I read, I did not see that the public will have to bear on their taxes, the backup of the public, to pay for this village if we did not receive the impact.
I will be happy to furnish that to you. It is absolutely on the first page of the official statement, and it's within the ordinance. It's the full faith and credit of the village is the general obligation.
Okay, then I would be expecting those documents as soon as you give them to me, or to our board members. Now, let's talk about the 207C. The fire truck. I'm kind of confused. Why are you consulting with the village the abated tax for a fire truck that should have been paid for with a village, with a awarded government grant to the village.
Evidently, there were multiple fire trucks. We were consulted and asked to prepare information for a bond issue for a fire truck. This particular fire truck is backed by utility taxes. A certain amount of the utility. There are pledges for all of these bonds, trustee. There's pledged revenue for all of these bonds. If the pledged revenue does not equate to the debt service, then what the bond ordinance says is that the full faith and the credit of the village has to come into play. All those bond ordinances say that. No, it's okay.
What fire truck is this 207C bond referring to?
I actually am not 100% sure. I think it's the one that has the big ladder. First fire truck.
So it was not the one that we received the grant for. What you saying?
I don't know about that.
That's the one in question, Trustee Myers, the one that we received the grant for. I'm assuming that this, from what I know, is the 207C fire truck line is the one that we received the grant for, and the grant came up no matter we had the money.
Well, we wouldn't have had a grant and a bond to pay to buy one fire truck.
Well,
you have one of the other.
You shouldn't have a grant, you shouldn't have a bond, period, but there was a grant for the fire truck. That's all I'm saying. What I'm saying is, we are putting on the back of the taxpayers a tax to pay for a fire truck that should have been paid for by the grant that was received by the village.
I believe there are two fire trucks.
I'm talking to her, not you, Trustee Hanks. I'm talking to Ms. Thompson. I just need to make sure this is the correct. I could be wrong, man.
The fire truck that I know about, trustee, is the fire truck that was purchased with the bonds. And how do I know that? Because the trustee, the bank that's the trustee, sends the money directly to the fire truck company that was purchased, the truck was purchased from which the truck was purchased.
Can I have also a copy of those documents?
Any document?
I would like to make sure, I like the documents in my box along with all other trustees to the village manager in reference to the bond that bought this fire truck that's in reference right now.
Absolutely.
So that means that, Mr. Mayor, we still have a fire truck out there that's been paid for by a grant, but yet that grant has been utilized and has not been paid for yet. I'm confused because there's only one fire truck I know that was paid for by a grant, and the grant did not go towards that fire truck. So I'm just confused. This is more confusing than anything now.
Well, as far as I understand, there's two fire trucks. There was one grant. We didn't at the time. I wasn't mayor at the time, so I'm really not sure what happened with the grant as reference to between the two fire trucks. We do know that when one fire truck came in, supposedly there was a grant supposed to be there when they up on arrival of that fire truck. There was no money available for it, and the village is now paying the loan back for that fire truck. So I'm not sure what the other fire truck. Yeah, we're paying a loan right now for one of those fire trucks. Now, where the money is for the grant, I don't know.
And to my knowledge, it is the grant fire truck that we abated the tax for the pay for this fire truck, which is inappropriate and unfair to the citizens. And it needs to be corrected before we go ahead and approve the abate taxes for confusion. It got to be clear so the public can be clear that this is not what we're paying for. If we are paying for a fire truck that the village bought, that's one thing. But if we're not, that's another. It needs to be correct. It needs to be clearly stated what the citizens are paying for.
Well, the bonds for this fire truck was not paid for by a grant. Right. The bonds for this fire truck were paid for by the bond proceeds.
Okay.
Well, that may be true.
Maybe true. I just need those documents that says exactly what you just saying to me, that proves that case. Because the public needs to know. Because we do know for a fact that we have a grant out there that came up. No one knows what happened to it. It's supposed to have went to the general fund and they did this with it, and it should have been done. It was an earmarked grant for the fire truck. And we know that an earmarked grant cannot be utilized but for anything but for what it was earmarked for. And it was for a fire truck that the public now has to pay for it, to my knowledge, and it's inappropriate. And we need to get to the bottom of it before we tax the public on this fire truck.
I think going back for a little history lesson for the ones that were here, residents that were here, we know in about 2007, I think it started probably going all the way back to 2005, the village decided to purchase a fire truck. We all know that we use bonds for large purchases because the village does not have cash flow. So what you do is you get these bonds so you can make certain purchases. So about 2005, the village board, if I remember right, decided to move forward to buy the first fire truck. The first fire truck we received in approximately 2007. And the second fire truck was received approximately 2009, 2010 time frame. So that was when the second fire truck came in. I think what's important to realize is that because of these large purchases, that's why you float these bonds. We talked about the 911 center, the upgrades that had to be made there. We talked about the fire engine or the fire truck that had to be purchased so we could have fire trucks. We talked about your village hall. Whenever you have large capital or large expenditures that you cannot afford, that's where you go out for these bonds. You talked about the perfect storm. You project and you have, everyone tells you, okay, as long as things continue to move the way they're moving, we will be able to pay these bonds and the money will not be levied against the residents. When these bonds were taken out, you can go back to 2007, you can go back to 2006 and 2005, and when the economy was doing good. We were seeing buildings being built. We saw our first spec buildings come in the early 2000s, and we're in the TIF. We saw additional expansions going forward. The village felt that we were moving forward the way we were supposed to, and that's where you make, it's where you, I guess you want to say, you make those decisions to keep your village moving forward. When you have a perfect storm, everyone understands what happened in the last 4 or 5 years. The economy fell. We have our economists that tells us that we probably almost went into a depression. Those are not things that, at that time when you took those bonds out as a village, you did not see a depression coming. The way that hit our economy nationwide. And not only just hit our nation, it hit other nations. It was a global effect that hit. This is not something that's just hitting Sauk Village. There's municipalities throughout the United States that run their municipalities based on bonds, based on being able to get those large capital, those large expenditures, so you can keep your village moving forward. We knew that we needed fire trucks. So yes, we moved forward to float the bonds to purchase the fire trucks for the safety and well-being of the residents of Sauk Village. I think what's important, and I know there's some residents probably asking, you hear us talking about abatements, you hear us talking about levies, some of these terms. I'd like to see if Ms. Thompson, if you could kind of give us a definition of abatement so that the residents will understand when we talk about abatements, and maybe perhaps, we all know that a levy is a tax that's going on the residents, but an abatement is good for the residents. If you could just give a brief definition.
Before you do that, let me just say, all of that was good, trustee, but the fact still remains the same that we had 2 trucks that was ordered. One that was with a bond, the other one was a grant. So we're still paying for the bond, and we're still paying as a loan for the second truck that came in. What trustee is asking, if we're paying for 2 trucks, we're still paying for 2 trucks. We're paying for one with the loan, with the bond, and we're paying for one right now with a loan that we pay every year. So what happened in between with the grant money? I think that's what the trustee is asking. He's not questioning whether or not we got 2 trucks or not. That's not the question. The question is, how are we able to pay for 2 trucks, one for the bond and one for a grant, and we're still paying for a loan. We're paying 3 times for 2 trucks. That's what he's understanding, and that's my question also. Now, if you
And
wanna
I need
answer
to tell
your-
you, Mayor,
Well,
I don't know
I know
anything
you
about the
do.
second truck.
You
I was just as surprised as everybody else when I
Okay,
heard
go,
about the
you can
second truck.
answer his question on the abatement.
Mr. Mayor, before you do that, Ms. Thompson, since Trustee Mark, Trustee Hanks is making all these elaborate statements about what happened beforehand, before he came in office, I think upon our research, he will be the first one I will look at these bonds. Since he knows so much about them, I want to look at him because he knows so much about it, and that kind of worries me. Secondly, Mr. Mayor, let me explain to the public here. Abating means to do away with. You're going to do away with a tax or some money that we have from taxes to levy, which means to impose a tax on the citizens so we can pay more taxes. So we're going to do away with this amount of money, and we're going to levy or impose another tax on the public to pay for something that the tax that we abated, that we did away with, was not enough to cover what we need to cover now. So we're going to charge the citizens more taxes to cover what we couldn't cover in the past. Ms. Thompson, am I wrong right with that?
Give us our 98,000.
Let me know if I'm wrong right with that.
Well,
Or not.
you collect monies to pay the bonds. The ordinances, every time a village adopts a bond, ordinances are filed with the county. In this particular case, this village has a trustee for every single one of its bonds. What does that mean? That means that the alternate revenue source for each one of those bonds goes to the trustee. It never comes into the village. All of your TIF bonds are with a trustee. The increment from TIF 2 and 3 goes to the trustees. The 2007 A, B, and C bonds are backed by other revenues. The village was, the pledge were utility taxes for one of the bonds, and the remaining bond, the 911 center, there was an additional charge that was collected for the 911 center that was imposed when the improvements went in. And that was to have been garnered and serve as the alternate revenue source. When the economy hit, the village needed to use those revenues for general operating costs. They were not sent as the ordinance prescribed to the trustee. Therefore, coming up with this shortfall. So we cannot abate the bonds in their entirety because we do not have the full amount of debt service for this particular year to pay the debt on these bonds. So we have to levy. We can't abate the bonds. There's not enough money to pay for the debt service.
So that's exactly what I said. Okay, now, I have a question. Now, you stated that you did consult, I don't know if you consult with the village to buy one of the 5 trucks. Did you not do that? You did not do that.
So
Okay.
we're not.
My question is, Mr.
We have
Mayor,
nothing to do with
that.
any.
I got you.
What we are called upon is to, we need to do this. How can we fund it?
Okay.
Can we utilize a bond to fund it? And if so, how is it going to work?
Okay. So this question was really not for you. This is for the fire chief and Chief Sewell, who's not here anymore, because we bought, we took a bond, we sold a bond to buy a fire truck. Is this the tower truck?
To my recollection, it is.
This is a tower truck that is utilized to fight 10 stories or above buildings. why would the village of Sauk Village need to buy a fire truck for a 10-story building if you only have, the highest building we have in Sauk Village is a 2-story building? Now, that's not a question for you. But it makes no sense that we would do that. Now, I know the surrounding suburbs can utilize this fire truck, but let's just say suburbs like Chicago Heights, who have those type of sturdy buildings, they can surely afford to buy that type of fire truck. Why would we need to buy a fire truck of that magnitude if we can only go, if we can find, if our tallest sturdy building is 2-story building, 3-story building, when we can walk up those stairs with our fire hose and fight the fire. All right, trustee? Right. So to buy an apparatus that is utilized
Why are we wasting our time?
for a big caliber fire was very inappropriate for the village, and the taxes for that is just real, it's unheard of. But my question is, I just want to make sure that we're not paying for the other fire truck that the grant was supposed to be paying for. It should not go on the backs of the taxpayers, and I'm going to do all I can to make sure that it don't. It's already on the back. You're paying for it now.
We pay for it as a loan. When the truck came, we didn't have money to pay for it, so we took out a loan. We refinanced what the truck was going to cost, and then we paid it as a loan.
So, Mr. Mayor, I would like to call for an investigation in this. We received the earmark grant from the federal government to pay for this fire truck, but according to Trustee Hanks, he knows all about the monthly funds, and so he needs to be investigated also. So I will be calling for that soon.
We got Ms. Thompson here to finish up her part, and we can get.
Ms. Thompson, I apologize, but it's a problem.
Let me ask you a question about the bond, though. How many years we have left on these? How many years do we take these bonds out?
The 2007A bonds, I think, run through 2020, but I'll double check for you.
2020?
I think so. And they're capital appreciation bonds.
Now,
but you have to understand, Mayor, I mean, if money comes in next year, we pay it.
Right.
Okay.
But let me ask you this then. At the time that we floated these bonds, at what rate were we getting these bonds at?
That's actually a very good question. I'm wanting to tell you it was 4.25, but I'll double check that as well.
4.25. Okay. Is that from what the rates that's, for bonds of those type of bonds?
Tax exempt.
Okay. At those rates, even like now, if you can maybe renegotiate those rates, are you able to?
The 2007A bonds can't be refunded. They're not callable. We've already looked into it.
So you're saying at the 4 point, whatever, that's the rate we're going to have to pay from here?
I believe it is, but I'll triple check for you.
Even if the market change, I'm trying to see, to get a rate at 4 something and then say that you can't refinance it.
Well, they were structured as capital appreciation bonds, which are not non-callable bonds. The other two bonds are different structure. So that they're not callable, but I will triple check for you.
I'm just wondering if there was another type of funding of something that we could have gotten at maybe a lower rate, or to be able to refinance those rates at a later date or something, and why were we able to go with that?
Well, part of the problem, Mr. Mayor and trustees, goes back to the original statement. When your building is not in a TIF district, so you could not use that as the ultimate revenue. You're non-home rule, so you can't use the general obligation and impose. What came up was working with DP and the other developers to come up with this impact fee ordinance and what they call the promote monies to pay for the building.
I guess I'm looking at when you say, for instance, just if you're home or something, you try to get the lowest rate you can, and you always try to put yourself in a position to try to refinance it. So I'm just wondering why we didn't take advantage of that, or why we didn't put something in place to do that.
It's because of the structure of the bonds. They couldn't, this was the structure that we had to utilize for the building at the time.
Can you maybe get me something to see what the rates were taken out? That's all I'm asking for. I'd
Sure.
like to see what the rates were.
Sure, I can give you all a copy of the debt service schedule and the rate, the tick.
Ms. Thompson, one more question. You stated that the capital appreciation bond, that's a non-refundable bond, can be called, right?
They're not callable.
They're not callable.
Right.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with interest-free bonds at all?
Tax exempt.
They do not?
They're not interest free.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I have a question. Ms. Thompson, when these bonds were taken out, do you remember what our bond rating was as a village?
An A.
Okay, I thought it was triple A.
Triple A.
Okay. Do you know what our bond rating is now?
Quite a bit less than a triple A.
Thank you. That's what I just wanted to know as far as renegotiating the bond.
But still, at the time that we floated the bond, we had a triple A, we had a good rating, so I said that's why we have to go with that type of interest rate, or that type of language saying that, or that type of bond that you can't recall, and you can't, you got a great rating. You should be getting the best you can get for it. I mean, that's the best we could have gotten at the time with those type of rating, triple A rating.
Because of the project itself, Mr. Mayor, there are only certain avenues that a municipality can take as far as the structure of bonds. For this particular building, the non-home rule community, that was the structure that was available.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
So there is one more bond that we need to discuss. Are we done?
Yeah.
Okay.
2009.
2009, we're paying.
Also, Ms. Thompson, for clarification, how much money are we talking about to levy? I think it was 670. 677, and that's for this year, correct?
Correct.
And if we have the same problem next year, it'll probably be about the same next year, correct? So if we don't get any new impact fee or someone doesn't come here and build, which does bring impact fee into the village, we're looking for another levy.
Correct.
Okay.
Ms. Thompson, one more question. There's $83,000 left over from some fund that we are abating. What is that from? Can you elaborate on me? Ms. Village Manager, is it $83,000 that's being abated?
Well, yeah, it goes back to, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, you know what, Ms. Thompson, let me refer to you. I'm directing the question to you.
Okay. It goes back to what I was telling you before. We're doing a partial levy on all of these, partial abatement on all three of the 2007 bonds. So that means that we have some money.
How much is
We
that?
have some money.
How much is
so I think the 2007A bonds, we have about 23,000.
Okay.
The 2007B bonds, if you just give me a minute, I'll tell you. The debt service for the 2007 B bonds. Would have been. The total debt service is $96,000. We are abating, I'm sorry, we're levying $48,000. So we have that difference on account with the trustee.
You levying, I'm sorry, you abating how much again?
We're levying $48,367.
I thought you were levying 601,000.
That's the A.
I said it's the 8 line only. You're not levying 601,000 only for the A bond, 2007 A bond, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the remaining what you have left over, is that included in 601,000? The 90 or the 48? I'm confused, because I thought you
We have
had
3 bonds,
right.
3 series, A, B, and C. A, we are going to levy $601,686.
Okay.
B bonds, we're going to levy $48,367.
Okay.
The C bonds, we're going to levy $26,999.
So you're gonna, but you add up all those together,
$677,000.
so that's what you actually levy, not 601,000, 670 some dollars, correct?
601 on the A bonds.
On the 8 bond, but
Yeah.
you're levying these other two also.
Yes.
So that's a total.
$677,052.
So we're gonna tax the $677,000. Okay, so I wanna know. All right, thank you.
I know you cannot, Mary, I don't know who can, but I would like to, before, I don't know when we have to do this, I understand it's a time sensitive matter, but is there any way we can kind of get an estimate of how much we're talking about per taxpayer? I know everyone's taxes are different, but just an estimate. I don't know if it's going to be $50 a year, $100 a year, depending on what what it would be. But I just because they need to know, because they're getting ready to have their water also going to be raised, so they need to know that they're getting ready to be hit with this, and also this year and next year. Unless we get something in, but this year at least, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be that much, but it'll be. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's $40 a year, $50 a year. I'm not sure, but I just wanted to get a kind of a ballpark figure.
What we can do is get some information from the village with respect to the number of households that we have, homes that we have, and then what we've done in the past is take a, and I don't want to use the word generalization tribally, but we utilize the impact that it would have on 100 houses valued at 100,000, impact at 150, impact at 200. That we can certainly provide you with.
Okay,
that's what I meant by a generalization.
Right.
We wouldn't do each home.
Right.
Separate.
Right. If your home was appraised at for your taxes at $150,000, then you can expect this to be right.
So you have a general idea.
Absolutely.
Okay. I do have another question. Can or can put out a memo to the mayor and the board of trustees on March 4th?
Yes.
The board did not receive this information until March 19th. Did you send this? Who did you send this to originally?
Did you receive it by certified mail?
On the 19th.
I think what happened, just so you know, is I wrote the memo, and I think it went through an approval process, so it may not have gone out on the 4th, so Mary should have changed the date. That would be my sort.
Any other questions for me?
stated before, Mayor, the people need to know exactly, because we're getting ready to increase a lot of different things in the village. So they need to know before we vote on just what to expect. I mean, we've had meetings for every time we increase something. I think we need to let them know before we do this that this is what we're looking at. They need to know, not that they can do much about it, not that we can do much about it because it has to be done, but they need to know. Because, like I stated before, they get ready to get an increase on their water bill. This is going to happen, and we need to let them know with all uncertainty that if we don't get any more commerce or building between now and next year, we'll be doing the same thing again.
I've got no problem voting on the abatements. I do definitely have a problem with the levy. Definitely need to look at what else we have as a village where there's any additional cuts that can be made, because again, we're talking another nearly $700,000 that we're talking nearly $700,000, and if there's any additional way we can through the village, we have to make additional cuts. Our own residents have to make cuts within their own homes, so we're going to definitely have to take a look and see where we can make cuts.
The only caution I would give the village as far as not passing the ordinances is in part, even, that when you don't pass your abatement ordinances, they are all levied. So we have money to pay for a lot of our bond issues. And so you may want to look at adopting, passing those.
So you're saying we cannot pass the ones that we have money for, the abatements, and hold off on the ones we're going to levy on?
No, I'm actually kind of saying the opposite.
Okay.
I'm strongly suggesting that you would at least pass the ones that we have the money to abate.
I have no problem with that. Like I said, I have no problem with passing ordinances to abate. I definitely have a problem for the levying of the taxes.
Because if the county doesn't get the ordinances, the levy flies.
But I think that we need to realize, because the residents keep on hearing, we've got money, we've got money, we've got money. The money's not there. And there was nowhere that the village planned for the $600,000. Again, additional funds in the budget. So if you can just use a memo, let us know so the board is understanding which ones we have exact money for. I think we're looking at, I've got your memo, so I know the 3 that we're going to be levying.
Right.
So,
Correct.
So I've got that information. Right. All right, thank you very much.
Well, Mary, I got a question. If the village fails to pass this ordinance of abatement, what will the county do? Correct me if I'm wrong. Will the county levy our taxes? Okay.
That's correct. That's correct. But what I'm saying is that if we don't pass the ordinances for at least the ones that we have, they'll levy for those too.
Okay.
Like I said, I got no problem. The ones that we're going to abate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.